Coming to you live from the global headquarters of the Eastlake Avenue Crusaders for Common Sense. This is the Dave Ross Show. Let's go to Carl.
And now, the man who can turn your radio into a puddle of molten plastic. Political analyst, Carl Jeffers.
Carl, how are you? I got to press his button first. There he goes. Carl, how are you?
Dave, you're going to lose a lot more, too.
Come on.
Hey, listen, on that Bernie Madoff thing, the most incredible thing of the Bernie Madoff scandal is the tape footage when he was doing a TV interview, when he's talking about how, listen, I mean, I'm close to the regulators. I know them. And these kinds of problems that you're concerned about, they just can't happen in this day.
Right. Oh, I saw that cut, yeah.
of extreme regulation, you know.
Can't happen. There's so much regulation.
There's so much regulation, and I know them. I'm close to them.
Yeah, that's right.
You need to, though, for balance, add the question that is being asked. The question is, people who voted for Obama who already regret that vote. And you know what it brings up, Dave? Doesn't it seem like Obama's been president for 2 or 3 years?
Well, you'd think so, judging from some of the ink that's been spilled on this. Hey, will you do me a favor? Will you tell them to quit goosing Rush Limbaugh's ratings?
Goodness.
Can they just shut up about him?
Well, you know, you and I talked about that 2 weeks ago before the events of last week.
Well, we always, our discussions always precede events by 2 weeks, Carl.
This is a little different, though. There's a nuancical difference here. This is really about Limbaugh doing what he does.
Yeah.
But there's a couple things that worked in his favor, though, Dave. He did that speech last Saturday on C-SPAN. And the reality is that normally, if it was any other year, he would have made that same speech and it would have not gotten the response it got. But it happened to be on a day when the C-SPAN network was also broadcasting the State of the Black Union to balance. So that's on the left with Tavis Smiley. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know this, particularly mainstream white America, but the State of the Union Day on C-SPAN once a year, has become kind of a family black ritual holiday in the black community. And I'm telling you that if Rush Limbaugh wanted to get people upset with what he was saying, he had the attention of most of black America last Saturday, because you know and I know.
I see.
When you have the channel set to one thing.
Right, you keep it there.
You keep it there. So many liberals, and particularly African Americans, saw that speech. My mother was hitting the roof, and she had a stroke this year. If I were in his position, I would not have said, I hope President Obama fails. What I would have said was, these policies are doomed to fail because they completely violate what has always been traditionally the way to deal with recessions and depressions in America. They are socialists. They will take the country down the path to socialism.
But let's talk about the reality. You were a Hillary supporter. He's been in office now for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. The market's down 20% since inauguration day. That's officially a bear market. You could, and that's how the financial publications have defined this now, the Obama bear market, because you're down 20% since inauguration day. Is he to blame? Is he screwing up?
Well, number one, and again, it's always important because there are always people who are being introduced for the first time. I was never anti-Obama. I thought that Hillary was the strongest candidate the Democrats had in November, and I am still vindicated because without the economic implosion of September 15th, John McCain was going to be elected president, and we can discuss that any time, but there was a referendum on Obama until that weekend. He was going to lose. After that weekend, the election was a referendum on McCain and his ties to George Bush, and then anybody was going to be able to win, and that takes care of that. Now, number two, the reality is I have also said that after he was elected, since that was my concern, but after he was elected, I thought Obama handled the transition flawlessly, impeccably. I think since he's become president, he has accomplished as much, if not more, than most presidents do in an entire term. Here's where I believe that there is a problem with this notion of Obama and the responsibility he has to or will accept for it being his problem. It is not his problem. He inherited it. You can't create a problem this big in 6 weeks. The concern that I have, though, is that every single time President Obama has attempted to address the problem in a way that would suggest that here is my solution, that the immediate response to that has been the problem appears to get worse. The market has dropped substantially after every single event that has been associated with the Obama response.
For example, you can go back to the Reagan recession, and this is still not close to that. I mean, his unemployment was, what, 10.8%, I think it was, 10.1, 10.8%. Didn't have a stock market drop until 87, but unemployment was worse during the Reagan years. But everybody remembers Ronald Reagan as irrepressibly sunny. He didn't even admit there was a recession until October of his administration, when it had been going on for months.
Well, not only that, he was able to actually get through 2 years after he was elected, salvaging seats for the Republicans in the off-year elections of 1982 by blaming most of what the economic problems were on the Carter administration.
He had this upbeat persona.
Yeah.
Barack Obama does not seem capable of being a cheerleader on behalf of America. You know, whether or not the stock market is down or up, I think he fundamentally believes that America is always going to come back, because we always have.
Right. Well,
he does not say that, though.
No, well, he did say that in his address to Congress the other night. In fact, that was one of his loudest rounds of applause. But here's the difference, though, between 1980 and 2009. America is a much more cynical nation thanks to people like Rush Limbaugh. And the reality is that it's one thing to criticize him because he's not being rosy and upbeat, but the reality is in America today, most people would be even more skeptical if
he were upbeat, rosy,
and said that everything was fine. That was one of the problems with George Bush. Everybody was saying, he kept coming out and saying, we're winning in Iraq, the ship is turning, we're going to stay the course, and everybody said he was out of touch with reality.
Carl Jeffers is with us for our regular weekly visit. So, okay, you want to give financial advice?
Well, Dave, no, I'm not claiming to give financial advice, but I do have some tips. I mean, after all, that's part of what I do in my consulting. But and so Boeing, though, in the long term, Boeing is one of the essential companies of America. But I would have said that about GM also, at one point. But Boeing,
in other words, never listen to your stock advice, is what you're saying.
Well, Boeing, first of all, has much better management. Secondly, they've been making products that people actually want to buy.
Exactly.
Okay.
What's your other advice besides that I shouldn't have bought Boeing
yet? A couple quick things. Number one, I want folks to remember there is an $8,000 tax credit in the new stimulus bill if you buy a new home to live in, but it's only good for 1 year in 2009. But it's an $8,000 tax credit, not a deduction. It comes right off your bottom line, and that is a significant incentive to consider. The other thing is that if you take a mortgage through an FHA loan, you can do it with only 3.5% cash into the total deal. And so that also will provide a tremendous opportunity for many buyers out there through FHA, which will expand its activity. Third thing is, everybody hears all of those admonitions from Susie Orman and all those people. They tell you, first thing you do, take the largest, highest balance credit card and pay it off. Folks, don't do that. That's a mistake. Here's what you do, unless you have plenty of money, but people are looking at doing something because things are tight. If things are tight, take your largest credit card balance and send double the monthly minimum every month. Not the monthly minimum. That's not enough. If the monthly minimum is $100, send $200 every month. And here's what it does. Number one, you are still preserving an excellent credit rating. Number two, in 6 months, if you do that, the card issue is going to offer you the opportunity to increase your credit limit to begin with. And number three, if things are tight, the benefit you get from paying off that balance is less than the benefit you get from sending double the monthly minimum and banking the difference in case things get tight. And the final thing for today is that if you're working and you have a job, keep doing a good job, folks. Keep showing up every day on time. Do a little extra work if you can. Let your boss know how good a job you're doing. Why? You've been hearing about all these job fairs all over the country where the lines are a mile long outside. You know what's happening? Employers are going to these job fairs right now, not because they need more people. They're going to upgrade because they know that right now they can get people who are super qualified and pay them the same thing they're paying you and then let you go if they think they can get somebody who's with twice as much experience.
Nasty.
Now, that's what they need to remember.
Okay, and that's today's edition of Your Money with Carl Jeffers. There we go. And we'll talk to you next Friday.
This is Bob Brinker saying good night.
That's right. If you got any more good stock tips, send me an email anytime.
All right, Dave.
That's Carl Jeffers for this week.